The sound of metal crashing to the concrete floor made me jump so hard that I nearly dropped my toolbox. The basement suddenly felt colder, quieter, and far more uncomfortable than it had just seconds earlier. I looked up from the broken water heater I had been repairing and saw my neighbor, Rachel Thompson, standing near the staircase. Her face was pale, her eyes filled with something I couldn't quite understand. Then she asked a question that stopped me in my tracks. She wanted to know if I thought a person deserved a second chance after making the worst mistake of their life. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances, please take a moment to like this video, comment below, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories that touch the heart. My name is Michael Carter, and this happened in a small town outside Columbus, Ohio. At the time, I was 38 years old, divorced, and trying my best to rebuild a life that had fallen apart. After my marriage ended, I spent most of my days working as a handyman. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills. More importantly, it kept my mind occupied. Rachel had moved into the house next door about a year earlier. She kept to herself most of the time. The neighbors described her as polite but distant. She rarely attended community events and never seemed to have visitors. Every morning she left for work before sunrise and returned after dark. To most people, she was simply the quiet woman on the corner lot. One Saturday afternoon, she knocked on my door and asked if I could take a look at her basement. Her water heater had stopped working, and she couldn't find anyone available that weekend. I agreed. The basement was old and unfinished. Concrete walls surrounded shelves filled with dusty boxes. The water heater problem wasn't difficult to diagnose, and I expected to finish within an hour. But as I worked, I noticed Rachel seemed unusually nervous. She paced near the stairs and kept glancing toward a stack of sealed boxes in the far corner. Then came the question. At first, I thought she was talking about someone else. But as the conversation continued, I realized she was talking about herself. For several moments, neither of us spoke. The only sound was the faint dripping of water from a nearby pipe. Finally, Rachel began sharing a story she had apparently carried alone for many years. When she was 22, she had been involved in a terrible car accident. She had survived, someone else hadn't. The details were painful. She wasn't intoxicated. She wasn't reckless, but she had glanced at her phone for only a few seconds. Those few seconds changed everything forever. Although the legal consequences had ended years ago, the emotional consequences never had. She blamed herself every single day. She had moved across several states, changed jobs multiple times, and isolated herself from nearly everyone she cared about. In her mind, she no longer deserved happiness. As she spoke, tears slowly rolled down her face. It was the first time I had ever seen her lower the walls she had built around herself. I didn't know exactly what to say. I wasn't a counselor. I wasn't a pastor. I was just a man fixing a water heater. But sometimes, people don't need perfect answers. Sometimes they simply need someone willing to listen. Over the next several weeks, our conversations continued. What began as a repair visit slowly turned into an unexpected friendship. We talked on front porches, shared coffee, and discussed the struggles we both carried. Rachel learned about my divorce and the loneliness that followed. I learned about the guilt that had haunted her for more than a decade. Little by little, I noticed changes. She started attending neighborhood gatherings. She smiled more often. She even began volunteering at a local community center. The woman who had spent years hiding from the world was slowly stepping back into it. One evening, while helping set up chairs for a charity fundraiser, I witnessed something remarkable. An elderly woman approached Rachel and thanked her for helping families in need. The gratitude in that woman's voice was genuine. Rachel smiled politely, but after the woman walked away, I noticed tears forming in her eyes. Later, she admitted that it was the first time in years she felt she had done something that mattered. Months passed. Winter became spring, and spring became summer. The friendship that had started in a basement continued to grow stronger. Rachel wasn't magically healed. Some wounds don't disappear completely, but she was learning something important. One mistake, even a terrible one, does not have to define an entire life. The turning point came during a town charity event. Hundreds of people attended. Rachel stood on stage and shared her story publicly for the first time. She spoke about regret, accountability, grief, and forgiveness. There, wasn't a dry eye in the audience. Many people approached her afterward. Some had experienced similar guilt. Others had lost loved ones and understood pain from the opposite side. Yet nearly everyone told her the same thing. Keep moving forward. That night, as the crowd dispersed beneath the warm Ohio sky, Rachel looked happier than I had ever seen her. Years later, I still think about that afternoon in her basement. I arrived expecting to repair a machine. Instead, I witnessed someone beginning the long journey of repairing a broken heart. If this story is touching your heart so far, please leave a comment and tell us where you're watching from. Your words may encourage someone else who is struggling with guilt, regret, or loneliness. Today, Rachel continues helping others through community outreach programs. She never forgot the tragedy that shaped her life, but she no longer allows it to control her future. She learned that forgiveness isn't about pretending the past never happened. It's about finding the courage to keep living despite it. As for me, I learned something equally important. Sometimes the most meaningful thing we can offer another person isn't advice, money, or solutions. Sometimes it's simply our willingness to listen, and maybe that's why I still remember her question all these years later. Does a person deserve a second chance after making the worst mistake of their life? Looking back now, I believe the answer is yes. Not because the mistake didn't matter, but because every human heart deserves the opportunity to heal, grow, and become something better than its darkest moment. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with friends and family, leave a heartfelt comment below, and subscribe for more emotional stories that remind us of the power of compassion, hope, and second chances. Thank you for listening.